Okay guys, tonight we're going to talk about dividing fractions. So we're working on lesson 4.2, dividing fractions. Our essential question, the question that you need to answer by the end of the video, or what I want you to know by the time this video is over, is how do you divide fractions? So how are we going to divide them? How are we going to do that? So an easy way to divide fractions is to use something called reciprocals. Now reciprocals are two numbers whose product is 1. Okay? And what I mean by that is if you take a number and its reciprocal and multiply them together, your answer is 1. So mainly we're going to use this with fractions. There will be some whole numbers involved or some mixed numbers that we'll still need to find reciprocals for. But the main idea here is that with fractions you have, like in this case we have 3/4 and you have 4/3. They are reciprocals because they, make sure I'm on the right thing here, because their product is 1. I'm going to show that to you. So I multiply, that's what product means, these two fractions. Remember, when you multiply, you just multiply straight across, numerator times numerator. In this case, 3 times 4 is 12. And then 4 times 3, we're multiplying the denominators now. 4 times 3 is 12. And that gives me the answer 12 over 12, or 12/12. And this just so happens to equal 1. So that lets you know that 3/4 and 4/3 are in fact reciprocals. Now you can use this to help you divide. And we're gonna do an example here in a minute, but I want to just kind of make sure that everybody understands how we find a reciprocal of a number. So here it says find the reciprocal of each number. So I'm starting with 2/9, and the whole idea here is that you're switching basically the numerator and the denominator. Okay, numerator comes down here to the denominator, denominator comes up here to the numerator. So the reciprocal of 2/9 is 9/2. Okay, we can do the same thing with 1/8. We can find the numerator here by switching, we can find the reciprocal here by switching the numerator and the denominator. So the 1 goes down to the bottom, 8 comes down to the top, and 8/1 is the same as 8. And then down here it even says the reciprocal of 1/8 is 8 over 1, or 8. So here we're trying to find the reciprocal of 5, and that's what I was just mentioning earlier. 5 is a whole number, but we can still find the reciprocal of it. And the reciprocal of 5, or well, not the reciprocal of 5, you're writing 5 as a fraction. 5 over 1 would be your fraction version of 5. They're equal, they're equivalent. So here's 5/1. We switch the numerator and the denominator, and I wind up with 1/5. So the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. So we can use reciprocals to divide fractions, okay? And I'm going to show you how this works here. But we can, so if you divide by a fraction, it's equivalent. It's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So that's what I want you to see. So here I have 1/5. I'm dividing it by 1/4. The answer is 4/5. But if I take 1/5 and multiply instead by the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4/1, I will get the same answer. 1 times 4 is 4, 5 times 1 is 5, and my answer is 4/5. So I'm going to do another example here where it's just a straightforward divide these two numbers. I have 5/9 divided by 2/3. So I'm going to leave this first fraction the same. Not going to change it at all. But I don't want to divide. I want to multiply instead. So here I'm going to multiply. And remember, I want to multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of 2/3, I'm going to multiply by 3/2. And I'm going to let that catch up a little bit. Did I make it a 1? I didn't mean to. My computer was going slow. Wow, I erased that whole thing. Alright, let's try this again. I'm going to multiply by 3/2. Okay? Now I've shown you before where you can actually simplify if you want to first. So we can't simplify this fraction, but we can't simplify this one either, but we can simplify the numerator of one with the denominator of another. Okay, and I just recognized pretty quick that I can simplify the 3 and the 9. I can divide the top by 3 and I get 1. I can divide the bottom by 3 and I get 3. Now I just go ahead and multiply my numerators, my tops. 5 times 1 is 5. And then I multiply by denominators. 3 times 2 is 6. So there we go. That is dividing fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, multiplying by the reciprocal. I want to look at one more example. This particular example is a word problem. It says Liam has 9/10 of a gallon of paint for painting the birdhouses he sells at the craft fair. Each birdhouse requires 1/20 gallon of paint. How many birdhouses can Liam paint? Show your work. Okay, so I start off. He's got all this paint, 9/10 of a gallon. Okay, and it's wanting me to divide this 9/10 into equal amounts of 1/20 of a gallon. It's not quite working for me here. There we go, 1/20 of a gallon. Okay, so we learned already that I don't want to multiply. I don't want to divide. I'd rather multiply. So I'm going to keep this first fraction the same, 9/10. I'm going to change it from a division problem to a multiplication problem. And then I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/20, I'm just going to flip upside down, and it's going to become 20/1. Now, I'd like to try to simplify if I can, and I see that both 20 and 10 are divisible by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. 20 divided by 10 is 2. So now I can go ahead and multiply this, and I should get a pretty easy answer. 9 times 2 is 18. And then I have 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer, my simplified answer, is 18. And how does this relate to our actual question? It says, how many birdhouses can Liam paint? So he can actually paint 18 bird. I don't know if this will show up, but birdhouses is what I'm writing. Okay. Wow, didn't even show up. Okay, but yeah, you get the idea. 18 birdhouses.